guys, and welcome to the Fish Room. I'm Rachel O'Leary and it's time for a species spotlight. This week I thought I would do a monster edition and talk to you about one of my pets, Captain Crankypants. Who's a 12 to 14 inch Oscar, Astronotus ocellatus. Now he's a wild caught variant and isn't flashy like some of the ones you see in the store, but this fish has been with me pretty much since the start. Now this fish is very persnickety, so he's not going to show his best colors. Wild Oscars can have very variable color, ranging from like a gray, green to almost like a zebra pattern, but they all have that nice eye spot in their tail. Captain tends to wash out a bit with attention, so we'll see how he cooperates. I wanted to show you guys just some of the bigger fish that I keep and sort of tell you what I've learned throughout the years of keeping them. So let's take a look. This is Captain Crankypants, the only fish I have ever named. And as you can see, he is quite imperfect. But he's also ancient. I just realized that this fish is about 9 years old. And you can see he has some damage to both of his pectoral fins and some sort of weird pimple. But this fish was a real game changer for me in the hobby. And he's an Oscar. And Oscars were described in the 1800s and became popular and available as line bred strains in the 60s in the US. Captain was a real game changer for me because it was the first time I tried to keep a larger fish. And the reason I did that is I was really trying to get my husband interested in the hobby. Unfortunately, any of you who have kept Oscars know that they are not always cooperative, and this fish decided he really didn't like my husband for the first few years. In fact, it would lay on its side, turn gray-green, and pretend to be dead if he entered the fish room. When I got him, I had him in a 120-gallon 4x2x2 with one of my big Endleys, and I think some snook or something like that. And it quickly became apparent that this fish was just not at all suitable to be housed with others. In fact, it's taken me over 8 years to find a tank mate that he doesn't try and kill, and that is a 4-line Pim that is hiding under those rocks in the bottom right-hand side. Now, Oscars are probably one of the most common fish in the hobby and one of the poorest kept. You know, while they are a cichlid and they are aggressive, they're only really considered very mildly aggressive, and often can be stressed out badly with it, when kept with tank mates that are you know, bigger and badder than they are. Captain here is, I guess about 14 inches. And this fish is 9 years old. And it's been kept, you know, for the first year it was in that 120-gallon, and ever since he killed multiple polypterus, he's been kept in this 75-gallon all by himself. He gets twice weekly water changes and is fed a diet of pellets, floating medium-sized pellets, as well as earthworms, crickets, mealworms, and other bugs like that. I don't think it's a good idea to feed them feeders. Feeders generally are not very healthy, and they also are not very good for the vitamin requirements of this fish. As you guys probably know, Oscars are really, really prone to hole in the head. My Oscar is no exception, despite being a wild variety. And there's lots of different ideas about what causes that. I mean, some people say carbon causes it. Well, I've never used carbon. Some people say it's caused by spironucleus, which is a parasite, but my fish has never been exposed to anything like that. And some people say it's from stress or food, and that's what seems most likely to me. Now, feeding your Oscar a well-balanced diet of good quality pellets, as well as things like bugs or market shrimp or mealworms or earthworms, can really help their nutritional balance and improve their overall health. You should avoid keeping them with other cichlids that are more aggressive, or they'll really be bullied, because although they're aggressive, they're not really that tough, despite, you know, Captain's surly mug here. pH isn't that important. They are South American fish, so in an ideal world things would be softer, but they're very, very, very versatile. Now, the main reason I wanted to do this video is because this fish's lifespan's only about 10 years, and Captain Crankypants is really creeping up on that. This fish has been so important to my hobby and taught me so much, and really is sort of a mascot. And you know, he's just a real character, and I think one of the coolest things about big fish like this is that they really have very unique and individual personalities. Though I do think it's extremely important, if you're planning on getting a fish of this size, that you have the tank when you get the fish. They are very messy eaters, grinding their food in the back of their throats and spitting out a lot of debris into the water column, so excellent filtration is a must. And he gets 2 50% water changes a week, despite there only being 2 fish in this 75-gallon. I think it's interesting to note that the Latin name for Oscars, Astronotus ocellatus, comes from Astronotus, meaning marked by a star on their back, which you can see in his dorsal area, and also ocellatus, which means marked by an eye spot, which they have in their tail. I just wanted to show you guys this fish because so often we see those really adorable little 2-inch baby Oscars in the store, all begging at the top of their tank, and they get to be pretty sizable. Again, they're just a wonderful pet. They're more like a wet pet than any of your normal community fish. Now, it's important to mention again that I am well aware that this fish is no longer a show specimen. He's very imperfect, but again, he's 9 years old. Captain is quite the character. I'm not quite sure what he's doing here, but it's never a dull moment watching him in his tank. I should mention that Oscars can routinely get to 15 inches or larger in captivity. So despite being imperfect, Captain's super, super, super important to me. And just a good example of a really old, big fish. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing a peek into one of my pets' tanks. And I wanted to mention too that Captain is the originator of the algae in the 220-gallon. So if you have the space, I would absolutely recommend having an Oscar at least once in your life. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you like these monster versions. Make sure you stop by my Facebook as well as my website, MsJinx.com, where you can find my upcoming speaking engagements, my current stock list, and information on all things nano. On June 16th, I will be at the North Jersey Aquarium Society presenting on husbandry and breeding of dwarf Asian hillstream species. I hope to see some of you there. And again, thanks for the donations I've gotten so far. They've really been a huge help.